Anna, g'day. How are you, man?
G'day. I'm not too bad, thanks.
We're going to play the article first off Newshub, because that is going to explain to everyone why we're talking exactly about this. And then I want to give just a couple of minutes with you. So thank you for making yourself available just to talk about what the Ministry of Health is doing right now, what the government is doing right now, and what they should be doing. It's a conversation we've kind of had numerous times, Anna, but I think that when they change something, it's like, let's see what they've changed and see if it's far enough, or see if people who are in the labs, which is what I always say, think more need to be done. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have a look at this item off Newshub tonight. And the item was titled, "The MOH Ministry of Health urges people to mask up as significant increase in winter illness reports Newshub." Yeah, reports Newshub, like they've got the, look, no one else has noticed this yet, so Newshub is reporting it. Anyway.
The Ministry of Health is again urging people to wear masks as it reports a significant increase in COVID cases, flu and respiratory illnesses. There have been 10,290 community cases reported today. That's the first time we've tipped over the 10,000 mark since April. 522 people are in hospital, including 10 in intensive care, and 12 people with COVID have died. Here's how the numbers have been tracking over the past month. After getting right down to just over 3,000.
We do have to say the write down is also write down of reported cases, not necessarily write down of actual cases. And I'm sure I hear your guffaw there, Anna, so I'm sure we may address that once this article is finished. But let's just make that clear. I mean, what the wastewater in Auckland showed us, that it could be 4 times the number of the people who actually had COVID
cases in the middle of June, 2 or so weeks later, and we have now tripled that. And our hospitalisation numbers have been steadily increasing too, going from 300 a fortnight ago now to over 500. Ashley Yates has more.
Auckland still bearing the brunt of COVID-19. It continues to wear the thorny crown of being New Zealand's virus hotspot.
Every company, every department, short of staff, always worried because we don't know how people will react to the disease.
As cases increase across the country, it's the Omicron BA.5 variant that's making its presence known.
The latest data we have shows it being around about 30% or more of cases. And we expect, that's about a week old, that data. So we expect that about now or next week, it'll be the dominant variant.
Although it's been shown to be more highly transmissible and able to evade our host immune responses, we still don't know whether or not it causes more severe illness, more hospitalisation, and therefore more death.
But there's little fear of the unknown for the COVID-19 response minister. She's sticking to the orange traffic light setting for now.
In orange, we have available to us the most effective prevention methods, which are masks and vaccines.
And it's masks that Dr. Ashley Bloomfield says will be made more widely available in the community.
We are intending to start providing them with RAT packs. When people pick up their their pack of rapid antigen tests, they will get medical masks as well.
As the COVID-19 storm evolves with another new variant on our shores, BA.2.75. Dr. David Welsh cautiously says it appears to be a bit more transmissible than BA.5.
Exactly how much more transmissible or whether it's going to be a real problem remains to be seen. And, at the moment, we're clearly dealing with the start of a new wave that's dominated by BA.5, and that's what we should be concentrating on, locally at the moment.
And all the experts agree the first weapon we should reach for in the fight against COVID is a mask.
So there we go. So there are the reports today. And of course, I remember you and I were talking quite close to the start of Orange. And I remember talking to you about here in Southern, the numbers to me didn't seem to warrant us moving into Orange, but we did anyway. And look, if I'm fair, the precautionary measures that I would have taken and wanted to take kind of panned out for society for a couple of months. It seems to have been pretty stable for a couple of months. But the apathy that I feel around at the moment, I was in the mall in the weekend, and in a mall you're supposed to have a mask on. So that's still in the current climate, half the people without masks on. I had to get some stuff fixed on my car, so I went to 2 car places last week. Not a single person at any of the car places with masks on. So that kind of 2 months of waning, I think, has caused an apathy that I personally do not think we will be able to get back what was that phrase they used? If the Ministry of Health urges people to mask up rather than mandates people to mask up. What do you think?
I think it's pretty clear they're not wanting to use the term mandate anymore for anything. So I think what you've just said is hitting the nail on the head here, that we've got these requirements in place at the moment for, whether it's in a shopping mall or in hospo or on a plane, in an airport, all of those regulations are there and they're not being adhered to, right? And so I think one of the biggest questions, oh my God, wow, like clockwork, right? The cat knows.
Every time we talk, she's got to come.
Yeah, ridiculous. So I think the big question we have, or that, that we really don't have the answer to is what's the trigger point? What is the trigger point of more action? Is it more death? I don't think anyone has the answer, or no one's received the answer to what is that trigger point that will signal to ramp things up. We've got a more transmissible variant. We've got waning immunity. Every single new variant evades the immune system that little bit better. So absolutely, what they're saying is right, that absolutely masking now is critical. So, the message is do as you're told for starters. You go anywhere and it might be that, even the rules of, didn't we used to have to put a mask on to walk in a restaurant and then sit down and then,
the magic air.
Magic air. Yeah. Exactly. And so all of those things are absolutely all around us. In my workplace, we're pretty good with masking. We're a bunch of scientists, but go to your nearest scientific conference. Do you see that there? Any conference that says you must have a vaccine passport, it's which year are you living in? So that's the thing. Now, really, these things are your best protection. Because, yes, absolutely, the vaccinations are going to keep you out of that severe category. It's going to keep our hospitalizations down. All of those things are critically important, but it's not going to stop you getting infected. It's not going to reduce your risk of getting long COVID. It's not going to stop you. Nobody wants to get sick. And at the same time, we've got influenza, we've got RSV and all the rest of it. So that big question, I think that we're all asking and not hearing any answers to is, what's the trigger point? When are we moving? And I think despite all of these things happening, numbers are going up, all of that. And the messages we're hearing are, orange is good, we're fine. It's well, what's not fine? As we had that conversation a while back when you were saying your numbers down there, starting to ramp up and, what do we do here? I think that's the thing. Nobody knows what the trigger point is to ramp up more protections. And so, yes, great that, urge mask wearing, sure. But, the other thing that, I will be 100% in one of these, a 3M and N95 that fits my face.
Yep.
We're still saying, crappy masks around or noses hanging out, all the rest of it. There's no time like the present to take it seriously. Do not enough people know that this thing's airborne? Is that why people think they're safe when they sit down at a restaurant? Do people still think it's all over your hands and whatnot? It's airborne. Any even going into an empty space, an empty cafe, it could have just cleared out of 100 people and, COVID's hanging out in the air. So, yeah, it's precarious time. So, start listening to the rules, start taking your own health seriously. Do you really want to get COVID again if you've had it? Do you really want it if you haven't had it? And protect everyone around you, And I think the other thing we've spoken about as well is these numbers going up. That's the studious people who are reporting their cases. So when our borders are open and we're having fun now, those that are choosing to, you're not going to go test while you're on your ski holiday in the South Island, are you? Because you'll get stuck there. You're not going to test if you pop across to Australia because you might get stuck there. So I think that the sort of areas around, reporting your test are also going to the tendency to not report is going to just keep escalating. So, waste water is going to be our best estimate here.
Yeah, and like we when we looked at that Auckland wastewater test case, it was 4 times. There was 1,000 cases of COVID in the community that day, and wastewater said there was 4,000 people in Auckland with COVID that day. It was actually more than that. It was more like 1,000 and 4,400. But let's just do easy maths. It was 4 times as much. Now that means that looking at the graph now on the board that was on the screen that was on Newshub. And the numbers are ramping up, but in the middle here on the 19th of June, where it was under 4,000, it could have actually been, up closer to 10,000 there already, which means today, I mean, I would think that with the heightened now, the new variants and stuff, I would hope that there wouldn't be as many people being quite so relaxed about it. Maybe more people would be, reporting it than not, because I thought 4 to 4.5 times was ridiculous. But still, there's going to be fewer people reporting it than have it, whatever that percentage is, we don't know. But that's going to be the case. And I agree with you. It's this idea of, at what point, what needs to happen before the government will actually do what's scientifically and best for the public health, rather than what they think is going to look best in the polls. Absolutely. And what is it that we have to get another 20% of people die, that the numbers have to go to 15,000 a day? What needs to happen, as you call it, the trigger point? What needs to happen before this government goes, oh, now's the time? Whereas actually, and I guess I'm not even suggesting red. I don't know if we'll ever go back into red, but surely they could say like masks in schools. I don't know about you, Anna. Maybe it's different for you because you're in like a community that's dealing with COVID, like the scientific community. But a lot of people I know who have got it, adults, parents who have got it via the school. It's come home with the kids. So even that could be a change they could make tomorrow. That wouldn't force, as I've said before, the 12-year-olds to be the people making decisions for public health. So that's what's happening in schools. And now what they're saying, the Ministry of Health with their quote-unquote urging, is they're making people in the community responsible for public health. Now, if that's the case, why don't you make people in the community responsible for all public health? Why don't you let anyone smoke that wants to smoke? Well, I know there's rules around that. There's laws around that because from the Ministry of Health and from the government, they say we need to make decisions to protect who we need to protect. And in this place, you're kind of going, well, we do want you to protect yourselves. So you decide. It's utter lunacy. It's ludicrous.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's been one of the solid sticking points that we've had all the way through, that schools should have never been left, to make their own decisions, and worse, students. You can wear one if you like, because we absolutely knew that was facilitating spread. Of course it's going to. I think one thing that will be a telling time for us is the fact that school holidays are coming up. Is that going to dampen things, or is that going to be a circuit breaker because there's no kids at schools? Or is it going to create, or it could create a new type of wave where everyone's out having fun, but numbers could drop down, because if you're away on holiday, so it's all those. It's not that people necessarily will not report their test because they don't want to report it. It'll be to do with your circumstances. So I think, that's a legit one where people might be away for the weekend. They don't want to get stuck where they are, or even that they might not even want to know that they're positive because they're getting on a plane, all that sort of stuff. So we'll have that escalate over the school holidays, because the same thing, you might be a couple of weeks in Queenstown, you might be on the Gold Coast, and you might just want to keep it under wraps because you don't want to know. So the school holidays might create that, or it might disperse things, or this thing's just too virulent, this is just too spready, and we're just going to get massive increase, because the numbers that don't lie are hospitalizations. You can hide behind not testing. You can't hide behind when you're so sick you need to be hospitalized. And we've been ignoring our frontline workers for how long now? They're telling us they're in dire straits already. You see reports daily of someone waiting for hours on end for ambulances, or an urgent, an after hours. All of those things are already happening. So we're just sort of waiting for, what's coming. We don't really know what's coming.
And that's a really good point, because in other words, if people aren't sending their results in, that's one thing, but it's not like they're going to go, I need urgent medical care, I won't send that in. They kind of have to go and get that. And as you can see from the graph that's on the board right now from the Newshub item, it's getting close to doubling. Since the third week of June, it's getting close to doubling. So whatever the genuine number, I mean, I don't want to extrapolate too much, but does that mean actually the numbers in the community are getting close to doubling.
Well, exactly. That there's something like that going on, because you have to remember, you know, we've only recently got access to the next boost, and, you know, getting boosted doesn't give you an instant, you know, barrier. You know, you've got to wait for your immune system to wake back up. So we're in that precarious time as well. Like, how many people have had access to the second booster already? So, you know, a lot of us are in that zone of pretty much no immune protection, because where it's dropped off. That getting that second boost is absolutely going to kick people back up to a good protection. But how long is that going to take to stop, you know, to start see our numbers come back down? So I don't really agree that, you know, that we're in a situation that vaccines are protecting us per se. They're protecting us personally from severe illness if we're up to date with our vaccinations, but we're not protecting our community, if you know what I mean. Like, those people who are always going to be vulnerable to infection and not being protected if everyone's out there not caring for thy neighbour, and they're not wearing their masks and they're spreading it around. So absolutely, we need all the tools in place, but there's nothing more important right now than not spreading it to people who are vulnerable. And that means wearing a mask, wearing it properly, and realising that the air around you is, if you're somewhere where there's a lot of humans, there's going to be potential for COVID in the air, and taking your mask off to have a drink, eat, be merry, you're at risk.